The Galactic Empire stretched across the stars. It was a vast, powerful force, made up of hundreds of planets and species. The Empire was ruled by beings of extraordinary power, their technology far beyond anything anyone on Earth could imagine. These beings had conquered many worlds, and their army was unmatched in strength. They saw themselves as rulers of the galaxy, and nothing could stop them. For many centuries, Earth was ignored by the Empire. It was a tiny, distant planet in the corner of the galaxy. The humans living on Earth were just one of many species in the galaxy, and their world was not seen as important. They had no advanced technology, no powerful army, and no way to defend themselves against the might of the Empire. In the eyes of the Empire, Earth was nothing more than a small, insignificant world, far below their notice. But what the Empire didn't know was that Earth's greatest strength lay in its people. Humans were different from the other species in the galaxy. They were resourceful, creative, and stubborn. They had been through many challenges, from natural disasters to wars among themselves, yet they always found a way to survive. The Empire did not understand this about humans. They thought that because Earth had no advanced weapons or powerful defenses, it was an easy target. They were wrong. The Empire's leadership believed they could take Earth without any problem. They had sent scouts to study the planet, and they had gathered information about the people living there. They saw humans as primitive, only capable of building small machines, farming, and living simple lives. The idea of humans resisting the Empire was laughable to them. Meanwhile, on Earth, life went on as normal. People went about their daily lives, unaware of the great threat heading their way. They didn't know about the Empire's plans to invade their planet. It wasn't until the first Empire ships appeared in Earth's orbit that the world realized something was wrong. The humans were unprepared for the Empire's arrival. At first, the ships hovered silently in space, watching from above. Their size and power were unimaginable. No one on Earth had ever seen ships like these before. They were huge, with smooth black surfaces that reflected the light of the sun. The ships looked like something out of a science fiction movie, but this was no movie. It was real. The humans watched in fear as the ships remained in the sky, casting long shadows over their cities. At first, the Empire didn't make contact. They simply waited, observing the planet below. They thought the humans would be easy to subdue, that they would bow down before the might of the Empire. But what the Empire didn't know was that this was a mistake. The humans had not given up. They might not have had the technology or the military strength, but they had something much more important: their will to fight for survival. Li Jun had always been fascinated by the stars. From a young age, he would spend hours staring at the night sky, wondering about the worlds beyond Earth. He wasn't a soldier, and he wasn't a politician, but Jun had a special gift. His mind was sharp, and his curiosity led him to understand the mysteries of the universe. He had grown up in a small town, far from the cities, but he had always believed that Earth was capable of much more. While others around him were content with their simple lives, Jun had a dream: to make humans aware of their potential and help them reach the stars. He studied everything he could about space and technology, hoping to one day contribute something that would change the world. Ji Min, on the other hand, had a very different path. She was a military officer, a leader in her field. She had grown up in the heart of the city, and from a young age, she had witnessed the darker side of human life. Wars, conflicts, and the constant struggle for power had shaped her into a strong, determined person. Min was no stranger to hardship, and she had seen what happens when people fail to stand up for what was right. Her goal had always been to protect Earth from the threats that loomed in the shadows. She had joined the military to defend her home, to ensure that no enemy would ever harm her people. She believed in strength and order, and she knew that the day would come when the Earth would need to fight for survival. Jun and Min did not know each other, but fate had a different plan. Their paths were about to cross in a way that neither of them could have imagined. When the Empire's ships first appeared in Earth's orbit, the government called upon the best minds, and the strongest leaders to prepare for the worst. June was brought in to advise on the possible technologies the humans could use to defend themselves. Min was called upon to lead the military forces to organize the defense of Earth's cities and military bases. At first, June and Min didn't understand each other. June was calm, analytical, and focused on science, while Min was fierce, pragmatic, and driven by a sense of duty. June believed that humans needed to think their way out of problems, while Min was certain that only strength and courage could save them. They didn't agree on everything, but both of them shared one thing in common. They loved their planet, and they would do anything to protect it. The council that was formed to discuss Earth's defense was filled with fear. People didn't know what to expect from the Empire, and they feared the worst. June and Min had seen the power of the Empire's fleet, and they understood that Earth was facing an enemy unlike any other. While the world leaders argued and debated what to do, June and Min worked together quietly, each using their talents to help prepare Earth for the coming storm. June used his knowledge of science to try to develop ways to disrupt the Empire's technology. He studied the alien ships closely, searching for any weakness he could exploit. Min, with her military experience, focused on organizing the defense forces, training soldiers, and preparing for the worst-case scenario. As the days passed, they both began to understand something important. Earth could survive, but only if the people worked together. They would need every human being, no matter their background or skill, to fight for their planet. June and Min's differences slowly turned into a strength, and together they started to plan for what would come next. The day the Empire's fleet arrived in Earth's orbit was a day no one would ever forget. It happened without warning. One moment, Earth was just a small, peaceful planet, and the next, the sky was filled with massive ships that seemed to stretch endlessly into space. The world's governments scrambled to react, sending messages of alarm across the globe. No one had expected this. No one had thought that Earth would ever be targeted by a force as powerful as the Galactic Empire. At first, the Empire didn't make any aggressive moves. The ships just hovered above Earth, observing. Their size was beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Towering ships with dark, smooth surfaces that glimmered as they caught the light of the sun. These ships were so large that they seemed to block out the sky, casting giant shadows over cities below. The people on Earth watched in horror and confusion, not knowing what would come next. The Empire's commander, a being called Rezur, watched Earth from the command center of his flagship. Rezur was a powerful alien, a being of great intellect and strength, and he was used to getting what he wanted. He had led countless successful campaigns across the galaxy, conquering worlds with ease. To him, Earth was just another prize, an unimportant planet to add to the Empire's growing collection of worlds. Rezur had no interest in diplomacy. He saw no need to talk to the humans. Why waste time negotiating with such a primitive species? He ordered his ships to land, ready to begin the conquest. The Empire had never failed before, and Rezur saw no reason why Earth would be any different. He believed that the humans would bow down without resistance, just as every other species had done before them. On Earth, the situation was far from calm. June and Min were both called to the emergency council meeting that was taking place in a secure government building. It was clear that Earth was in grave danger, and they needed a plan, fast. The world leaders were in a state of panic, unsure of what to do. Some argued that Earth should immediately surrender to the Empire, while others insisted that they fight. It was chaos. June, however, was thinking differently. He knew that Earth could not win in a direct battle with the Empire. The human military was no match for the overwhelming power of the Empire's fleet. But June had an idea. He had been studying the Empire's ships and their technology, trying to find a weakness. He believed that if he could somehow disrupt their systems, they might have a chance to fight back. The problem was that no one had ever dealt with a threat like this before. They had no idea what the Empire's technology was capable of or how it worked. Min, always the pragmatist, listened to June's idea, but knew that time was running out. She knew that Earth's military needed to be ready to fight, but she also understood that June's plan could be their best hope. Together, they worked quickly, trying to figure out how to stop the Empire before it was too late. The world's leaders made a decision. Earth would send a message to the Empire, demanding that they leave. But no one knew what would happen next. Would the Empire listen? Or would the first contact lead to war? As the message was prepared, the people of Earth waited in fear, knowing that the fate of their world was about to be decided. The message to the Empire was brief, but its meaning was clear. Earth had sent a warning. We are humans. You don't understand us yet, but you will. You have one warning. Do not attempt to conquer Earth. The message was simple, yet filled with an unspoken power. It was a warning that no one in the Galactic Empire had expected. When the message was broadcast across the world, people held their breath. No one knew if the Empire would listen. Would the Empire even care? The Empire was used to conquering worlds, bending them to their will. A small, unimportant planet like Earth didn't seem like it would be much trouble. But the humans were not ready to give up without a fight. The world's leaders sat in silence, waiting for a response. The Empire's fleet still hovered above Earth, and the tension in the air was thick. June and Min were both watching closely, knowing that their message could change everything. They had hoped that the Empire would take Earth seriously, but deep down, they feared the worst. Hours passed, and finally the response came. The Empire's voice boomed through the communication channels, cutting through the airwaves like a sharp knife. Reezer, the Empire's commander, spoke with calm authority. Humans, he began, your world is small and insignificant. You are weak and your technology is outdated. You are no match for the power of the Galactic Empire. Your message is meaningless. We will take your world, and you will obey. There is no need for further discussion. The words hit Earth like a thunderclap. The people who had hoped for peace now understood that the Empire would not back down. The commander's tone was cold and dismissive. Earth's message, meant to be a warning, had been laughed off as nothing more than a challenge. June and Min both knew that there was no turning back now. The Empire had made its decision. It would not leave Earth alone. The planet would be invaded, and the people would be forced to fight for their survival. But even though the situation seemed hopeless, June still held on to a small spark of hope. He believed that the humans could fight back. They might not have the weapons or technology of the Empire, but they had something else, their determination to protect their home. We cannot let them take Earth, Min said firmly. Her eyes were filled with resolve. We will stand together, and we will fight. June nodded, knowing that the battle ahead would be like nothing the world had ever seen. Earth was no longer just a peaceful planet in the corner of the galaxy. It was now a world at war, and the humans would have to do everything they could to defend it. The world's military began to prepare. Soldiers were called to arms, and every person was asked to do their part. Scientists and engineers worked day and night to find a way to fight back against the Empire's overwhelming power. June and Min knew that they had to act quickly. The Empire would not wait, and neither could Earth. In the midst of the growing chaos, one thing was certain. Earth had sent a warning, and now the fate of the planet was in the hands of its people. The Empire had underestimated them, and soon they would learn just how wrong they were. The day after the Empire's response, the skies above Earth were filled with ships. Hundreds of massive Empire vessels hovered in orbit, blocking out the sun. The world's leaders had given up hope of peaceful talks. The message was clear. The Empire had come to conquer, and Earth was its next target. But the humans were not going to give up without a fight. June and Min both knew that Earth could not win by fighting the Empire in a traditional way. The Empire had advanced technology, powerful weapons, and an army of aliens unlike anything the humans had ever seen. No human army, no matter how strong, could stand against such a force. Still, the people of Earth did not surrender. They refused to give up. Min, with her military experience, organized the defense forces. She made sure the soldiers were ready for whatever came next. While she focused on organizing Earth's military, Jun was working on something else: technology. He believed that Earth's best chance was to find a way to disrupt the Empire's power, to weaken their ships and technology. He spent countless hours studying the Empire's vessels, trying to figure out how they worked and what weaknesses they might have. As the days passed, the tension grew. The Empire had already started landing troops on Earth. They began by attacking the smaller cities, overwhelming the local defense forces. The humans fought bravely, but their weapons were no match for the Empire's advanced technology. Buildings were destroyed, and entire neighborhoods were torn apart. Earth's military tried to push back, but they were outmatched. However, in the midst of all this destruction, the people of Earth did not lose hope. They fought with everything they had. Guerrilla groups formed, using the environment to their advantage. Small groups of soldiers and civilians began to strike back, sabotaging Empire equipment and setting traps for the invaders. The humans were resourceful and quick, using everything they had to slow down the Empire's progress. Jun's work was paying off. He had discovered a way to disrupt the Empire's energy systems. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. He found a weakness in the Empire's energy shield, a small opening in their defense systems. It was a risk, but Jun knew it was their best chance. He worked with a team of engineers to create a device that could target that weakness. Meanwhile, Min was leading the military forces, focusing on holding off the Empire's ground troops. She knew that the battle was far from over, but she also knew that they had to keep fighting. Earth's survival depended on it. She worked closely with Jun, coordinating the military's attacks with his technological efforts. The two of them, with their different strengths, became a powerful team. The Empire had expected a quick victory. They thought Earth would fall without a fight, but they were wrong. The humans were not going to give up. They fought with the strength of their will, using every tactic they could think of to resist the Empire's invasion. Every small victory, every piece of technology they could use, became a step toward survival. The Empire began to notice the resistance. At first, it was just small attacks, sabotages, hit-and-run tactics, and surprise strikes on their equipment. But soon, the Empire realized that Earth was not going to fall as easily as they had thought. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were starting to feel the consequences of their overconfidence. The war had been raging for weeks, and Earth was starting to show signs of wear. The cities that had once been full of life were now in ruins, and the human population was slowly being pushed back. The Empire's troops were everywhere, on the ground, in the skies, and even in the oceans. They had a stronghold in every major city, and their ships continued to patrol the skies, making it harder for the humans to fight back. But despite the destruction, something had changed. The people of Earth were no longer afraid. They had tasted the power of the Empire, and they had learned to fight back. The small victories that had seemed impossible at first now grew larger and more frequent. Guerrilla fighters worked together with the military, striking at the Empire's weakest points. Cities that had once been overrun by the Empire were now seeing human resistance pushing back the invaders, bit by bit. Jun and Min had been working tirelessly, each in their own way, to turn the tide. Jun's technology was becoming more effective. The device that he had helped create to target the Empire's energy shields was working better than expected. It wasn't perfect, but it was causing significant damage to the Empire's fleet. The ships that had once seemed invincible were now vulnerable. The Empire's power was beginning to wane, and Jun saw an opportunity to strike a decisive blow. Meanwhile, Min was leading her forces on the ground. The human military had taken heavy losses, but Min refused to back down. She had seen the strength of the human spirit. Soldiers who had once been terrified were now fighting with the fury of people who had nothing left to lose. Min led them with determination, refusing to let the Empire take another inch of Earth. She understood now more than ever that Earth's survival didn't just depend on technology or weapons. It depended on the courage and unity of its people. One day, Jun made an important discovery. He had found a hidden weakness in the Empire's fleet, something the Empire hadn't realized was there. The ships had a critical flaw in their power systems, a flaw that, if exploited, could cripple their entire fleet. The Empire had made a mistake, and Jun knew this could be the moment that changed everything. Jun immediately contacted Min. "I think we have a chance," he said. "If we can get a strike team to one of the Empire's flagship ships, we can disable their entire fleet." Min's heart raced as she listened. This could be the breakthrough they had been waiting for, but it wouldn't be easy. The Empire's flagship was heavily guarded, and getting close to it would be a dangerous mission. Still, Min didn't hesitate. She knew what was at stake. "I'll assemble a team," she said. "We'll hit them hard." The plan was set. Jun would work with a group of engineers to provide the necessary technology to disrupt the Empire's power systems, while Min would lead a strike force to infiltrate the flagship. It was a high-risk mission, but it was their best chance. The day of the mission, both Jun and Min stood on different sides of the battlefield, but they shared the same goal. Min's team would board the Empire's ship, while Jun's team would work from a safe location to send the disabling signals. The human resistance was ready for their biggest battle yet, and they knew that this could be their last chance to turn the war in their favor. As Min prepared to board the transport, she turned to her team. "Remember," she said firmly, "we fight for Earth. We fight for our families, our homes, and our future. Today, we make history." The time had come. The human resistance was preparing for the final, most dangerous assault on the Empire's flagship. Jun had helped design a way to disable the Empire's fleet, and Min had put together a team of brave soldiers ready to carry out the mission. Everyone knew that this would be the hardest and most dangerous fight they had ever faced, but they also knew it was their only chance to save Earth. Min's team had been trained for many weeks in preparation for this moment. They knew the risks, and they knew the odds were against them, but their determination was stronger than their fear. They understood that Earth's future depended on what happened today. The Empire had taken so much already, and the humans were not going to let them take any more. Min stood in front of her team, the weight of the mission heavy on her shoulders. Her soldiers were ready. They were armed, trained, and ready to face whatever the Empire threw at them. "Remember," Min said, her voice strong and steady, "this is for Earth. We fight for the lives of our families, our homes, and every person who can't fight. We can do this, together." The team nodded, each soldier with a look of determination in their eyes. They climbed aboard the transport ship, their hearts racing with a mixture of fear and hope. As the transport took off, Min's mind focused on the mission. She had been in many battles before, but this one felt different. This wasn't just another fight. This was the fight for survival. Meanwhile, Jun was working in a secure location, overseeing the engineers as they prepared the technology that would disable the Empire's fleet. It wasn't easy. The Empire's ships were incredibly advanced, and Jun had to be careful not to trigger any alarms that would alert the Empire to their plan. He had been working around the clock, refining the technology that would send a disabling signal to the Empire's power systems. It had to work. There was no other choice. The transport ship carrying Min and her team reached the Empire's flagship. The massive ship loomed in front of them, its dark surface reflecting the cold light of the stars. The ship was surrounded by enemy defenses, drones, weapons, and a heavy security system. It was clear that the Empire had no intention of letting anyone get close to their flagship, but Min and her team were prepared. They landed as close as they could. And then, with weapons in hand, they moved swiftly into the shadows, making their way toward the ship. The Empire's defenses were stronger than they expected. As they moved closer to the flagship, they encountered fierce resistance. Alien soldiers, robots, and drones attacked from all sides, but Min's team fought back with everything they had. Bullets flew, explosions shook the ground, and the air was filled with the sound of battle. But Min and her team pressed forward, determined to reach the heart of the flagship. Back on Earth, Jun was on the edge of his seat, watching the progress of the mission. His fingers moved quickly over the controls as he sent the final signal to the team. "It's now or never," he muttered to himself. He knew that if the signal worked, the Empire's power systems would fail. The fleet would be vulnerable. But it was all up to Min and her team to get close enough to trigger the final blow. The fight was intense. The Empire was not giving up easily. But Min and her team were determined. They had come this far, and they were not going to fail now. As they reached the heart of the flagship, the final battle was about to begin. The fate of Earth rested on this one moment. Could they succeed? Could they bring down the Empire's mighty fleet? Only time would tell. The battle had reached its peak. Min and her team were inside the Empire's flagship, fighting their way through the corridors. The Empire's soldiers and machines attacked from every direction, but Min's team refused to back down. They had made it this far, and they weren't going to fail now. Every step they took was a step closer to victory, but it also meant more danger. Min could feel the pressure. Time was running out. They had to disable the Empire's ship and send the signal that would disable the entire fleet. It was a dangerous mission, but there was no turning back now. They had come too far. The fate of Earth depended on them. Jun, back on Earth, was watching the battle unfold on his screens. His hands trembled slightly as he worked to control the signal. The technology he had built was now the key to Earth's survival. If it worked, the Empire's power systems would fail, and their ships would be helpless. Jun was doing everything he could to make sure it worked, but he knew it wasn't guaranteed. He had to trust Min and her team to get close enough to trigger the signal. Inside the flagship, Min's team reached the heart of the ship. They had fought through so much, and now, all that was left was one final push. The core of the Empire's ship was just ahead, but standing in their way was the Empire's strongest line of defense, a group of elite soldiers. These soldiers were trained to protect the heart of the ship at all costs. They were fierce and well-armed, but Min's team was ready. "Stay focused," Min said, her voice steady. "This is it." The fight that followed was brutal. The elite soldiers charged at Min's team with everything they had. The air was filled with the sound of gunfire and explosions. The team fought back with all their strength, using the skills they had learned over weeks of preparation. Each soldier knew their role, and they fought like a well-oiled machine. Despite the overwhelming odds, they were holding their ground. Back on Earth, Jun sent the signal. A wave of energy traveled through the galaxy, reaching the Empire's fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Jun held his breath, praying that the signal had worked. Then, a sudden change. The Empire's ships began to flicker and stutter. Their power systems were failing. The once unstoppable fleet was now powerless. The Empire's ships began to fall from the sky, their engines shutting down one by one. The humans had done it. Earth had struck the Empire's heart. Min's team fought their way to the core. With one final blast, they disabled the heart of the ship, causing the flagship to shake violently. The ship was losing power fast. The team had done it. The mission was a success. As the flagship began to fall, Min and her team made their way to the escape pods. The fight had been long and hard, but they had won. They had stopped the Empire's invasion. Earth had fought back and won. The humans, once seen as weak and insignificant, had proven their strength. The Empire had underestimated them, and now it was too late. Earth was free. Back on Earth, the people cheered. The battle was over. The Empire had been defeated. Jun and Min were heroes, but they knew the victory wasn't theirs alone. It belonged to every person who had fought, every person who had refused to give up. Earth had come together as one. And in the end, it had been enough. The war was over. Earth had survived. And the galaxy would never forget the humans who had dared to stand against the mighty Empire and win.